Let me just look for the. All right. Okay, so we will start our regular city council meeting after we were done with the organizational meeting. And again, today is January 9th, 2024. It's 7:32 p.m. Would the clerk call the rolls, please?
Councilman Hassan,
Yes.
Councilman Al Samir,
Yes.
Councilman Mahmoud,
Yes.
Councilman Sedman,
Yes.
Councilman Musa,
Yes.
Councilman Rafai,
Present.
and let me say that one more time, Pro Tem Musa, congratulations, and Mr. Mayor,
Thank
you're
you.
here, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any community announcements?
Mr. Mayor, just a couple thank yous. I'd like to thank Greg and the library staff and our staff for organizing the inauguration this past Sunday. I think it went quite well. In addition, I'd also like to again thank Greg and Mr. Goldmeyer for taking their time to come into council chambers along with some of our staff and work on the speaker systems, which I think is working a heck of a lot better.
So,
And
prove
of
it.
course, mine's not on.
There you go.
But I do talk loud enough, so hopefully everyone heard me anyway.
Okay,
That's all I got.
thank you. All right, no more community announcements?
No, sir.
All right, we move to proclamation, recognitions, and presentations, and we have the police department annual report.
Good evening, Mayor and City
Good
Council.
evening.
So we did prepare the annual report for 2023, and I can tell you that, should have come to you in an email.
Okay, this is right.
Yeah, so, in
Got it.
2023, the police department handled 16,259 calls for service. As far as arrests go, there was a total of 512 arrests, which broke down to 196 felony arrests and 387 misdemeanor arrests. I'm happy to report that our robberies were down by 27%, our burglaries were down by 21%, fraudulent crimes were down by 12%, drug crimes down by 17%, our alcohol crimes are down by 42%, and our homicides were down by 100%. We did not have a homicide in 2023, so I'm very happy to report that. However, on that flip side, some of our other violent crimes are up 5%. Retail fraud was up 60%, which is quite high for that crime. Our property crime is up 13%, and we have been seeing an increase in stolen vehicles. But this is consistent with our national statistics and the statistics that we're finding around Michigan of stolen vehicles. So it's a good time to remind everyone that anything that you can do to prevent stolen vehicle theft, such as getting the club, kill switches, alarms, those kind of things, nothing is foolproof, but anything you can do to slow someone down or get them to maybe move out of our community. We're also hoping that the newly approved flock cameras will help this type of thing, because a lot of times we're seeing that someone will bring a stolen car into the city in order to steal another vehicle. So we're hoping that that will help. As far as traffic citations, they wrote 7,136 traffic citations, which broke down to 6,815 civil infractions. And for speeding citations, there was 1,236 of those were speeding citations. They wrote 1,049 misdemeanor traffic citations, 50 reckless driving or dangerous driving, and 3,051 parking related, which were non-meter tickets. So those would be your block driveways, your handicap, fire hydrants, those types of parking tickets as well. The Hamtramck Police Department had the following employee changes. We did hire 5 new police officers and 5 new civilians were hired. Those would be our dispatchers and other support staff in the police department. We did have 4 resignations, which included officers and a combination of support staff, and we did have 1 promotion. Some additional highlights: the Hamtramck Police Department has participated in several community events, which included but not limited to the Hamtramck Drug Free Coalition meetings, a back-to-school carnival, the Labor Day Festival, the Labor Day Parade, prescription drug take-back, the health hike. We hosted a vehicle auction. The Hamtramck Drug Free Coalition does a public safety breakfast every year. Our officers participated in the annual K-9 training event. We hosted our second annual trunk or treat and DCFC games that the officers attended. And we also had several officers from the police department visit several police academies and job fairs to increase our recruiting efforts. And you can see in the photographs, one of the photographs was from one of the events that we hosted, and the second below picture was Officer Grefke at a job fair that she attended. Myself, the police chief, was featured on WXYZ's Check-In with the Chief, which we had a very good community conversation about the police department and our involvement in the community. We continue to make training a priority. Our staff members are completing multiple monthly trainings, and the classes include a wide variety of topics. Officers are approved to submit additional training requests for a wide variety of training topics, and we also completed active shooter training. I worked with our grant coordinator, and we were awarded an $800,000 training grant for the Department of Justice. The police department has partnered with Eastern Michigan University to create a de-escalation training program using a virtual reality technology. Next slide. So some of the photographs you can see, we have the officers attending a reading event at one of the schools. There was a couple photos there from the Channel 7 broadcast that I participated in. We had an officer with our trunk or treat event, and the two photographs at the bottom were from the back to school carnival at the Pulaski Park. The next slide, we also have officers continuing to read to the schools. The middle photograph was taken at the Hamtramck Housing Office, where they hosted a separate back-to-school event for those community members. There was the Sarah Garrett Park dedication. You can see myself and the fire chief with Representative Ayash at the 9/11 ceremony that they hosted at the state capitol. And then just some other photos of other events that we attended. And that's pretty much it from the police department.
Thank you. So, like you mentioned, the most pressing issue now in the community is stolen cars. I mean, just in the past 2 days, many people reach out to me and complaining about this increase in the stolen cars, and they are telling us that we are not doing anything. But I told them that we are doing everything possible, including approving the cameras, to be installed around the city. But from your viewpoint, what else can be done, and what is the police department doing to prevent this? Or
Like I said, anything that a community member can do to protect themselves and their vehicle, such as, like I said, the club, those are still very effective in my opinion. And a lot of times someone doesn't want to mess with that, they'll move on to the next vehicle. It's not foolproof, it never is. I mean, there is instances where someone can cut that device off or cut the steering wheel. Kill switches can be installed, alarm systems, watching out for your neighbors, reporting suspicious activity. I mean, I would rather have our officers go out on something suspicious rather than someone say, oh, I saw something but I didn't call it in, so those kind of things. Our officers are out there patrolling and watching for suspicious behavior. But as you know, in the police department, we have to find a very fine balance between just what could be considered harassing a person that's walking down the street and watching out for criminal activity. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything to protect the rights of our residents and visitors to this community, but at the same time watching out for suspicious behavior, and we can certainly check out those types of things. Especially in the middle of the night, when it starts getting cold, it's kind of unusual to typically see people just kind of walking around, pulling on car doors. We see a lot of that on social media, but nobody ever calls. So if you see someone pulling on someone's car door and looking into vehicles, things like that, we definitely want people to report those type of events.
so, since this is it's a common problem not only in Hamtramck but elsewhere. One of our employees in the clinic, her car was stolen, but she was able to coordinate with the dealer to find the location using some kind of navigation system of the car. Unfortunately, it wasn't stolen from Hamtramck, but from the border of Hamtramck in 6 Mile. So she kept telling Detroit police, this is where the car is. The GPS, whatever system they are using, located where the car is, but the police was telling her, this is not a priority for us, we can't go to this place. That's a major problem. I even talked to Max about it, because this could solve a lot of problems. If we catch those people somewhere, maybe they are the ones who are doing it everywhere. It could be a group, it could be some place where they, hide the cars and then, I don't know, sell them, whatever they do with them. But Detroit police refused to cooperate in that. I talked to Max, he said if it was stolen from Hamtramck, we would have done something. Is there a way we can coordinate with Detroit police to do, because this could have solved a lot of problems if we catch the criminals who are doing it.
Right, so our detectives do work very closely with Detroit Police Department detectives. I unfortunately can't speak to what happens on their road patrol and on a daily basis with the supervisors and stuff. Obviously, when you know Detroit is very busy and they do have to prioritize their calls. I mean, it's fortunate about Hamtramck, even though we tend to be busy at times, that we don't start our shift 15, 20, 30 calls in the hole like unfortunately Detroit sometimes does. So it is a little frustrating. Our officers, if it's something that's kind of found on the border, our officers probably could kind of slide that way a little bit. And, if it's a car that was stolen from Hamtramck, help the vehicle owner recover it. Certainly someone is able to recover their own vehicle. However, I don't condone going into a situation where they don't feel comfortable in doing that themselves. But so yes, it can be frustrating too. But we do work closely with Detroit, and I can certainly have someone reach out to see if that's, something we can make sure that they're making a priority. I know that they do have an auto theft unit, so maybe that's kind of something, is making sure that we'll coordinate our office with them.
Okay, thank you. Any other
Mr.
questions?
Mayor, just a quick question. Do you have any, what is called the tentative date for camera installment? I know it's cold weather now, but.
So I reached out to them today because of the holidays, everybody was busy, so we are getting ready to do our next kickoff meeting. We did sign the agreement with them. We've sent the invoice up for processing for the first installment, which is what is required by them to install the cameras, that we pay half of the money up front. So we have done that, so we are taking good steps. We've already had a meeting where I've approved every location that we've discussed with them. So we're taking steps, it's just a matter of now it's kind of in their hands to decide when we start getting, and they have to get, part of that process involves getting permits for certain locations. If they're on county right-of-ways, they have to work with Wayne County. So they said that could take a couple months in order to get Wayne County to approve. Same thing with MDOT, anything that's on the MDOT right-of-way. John sat in on a meeting with us, and we did talk about the locations that are in Hamtramck on our poles that we could, move the process along for them. So we're taking the steps in the right direction.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Now, one other quick question, Mr. Mayor.
All
I
right.
forgot to add it to the last one. I know you gave the ticket citation numbers for this year, but not the previous year. It is the speeding ticket,
Yeah, these are for
It is-
2023.
2023.
Yeah,
but
these are
how
all for
about the 2022? Is like everything else,
You,
That was
He
in
gave the
last year's
number.
annual report.
you and I have how much you hear.
Every New Year, they're gonna.
Yeah, we had a report last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, she compared everything else.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was last year than
Those
this.
should be out on board docs if you look at last year's
Okay.
annual report. There we go. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but.
I see. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we move on to the additions or deletions. Do we have any?
No, sir.
All right, move back to public comments.
Mr. Bill Meyer?
Okay, doesn't anybody else want to talk? Can you hear, we can hear you much better, though. All your mics are working great. If you can make sure you're talking to the mic. We got new speakers back there, the public can hear you.
Yeah.
But we can't hear this mic, this mic's
Yep,
not
I
coming
hear
from
you.
those two speakers, but you can hear this over there.
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yes, we-
Very clear.
So we got
Is that little?
one more to fix, yeah, we're right on the edge of feedback. All right, so, Happy New Year to everybody, and welcome to our new councilman. Is that part of the meeting? Are you supposed to say welcome to him and all that? Oh, we're gonna do that later, right?
Yeah.
In the meantime, Mudis and Sadman are bringing youth and energy to this council. I'm very excited about you being part of this, and I read your card that you passed out during your campaigning, and I kept one of them, and I saw all the things you promised to do. So I'm going to be marking them off when you go. Thank you very much for your work with Creek. You might be the first one to do what you promised, okay? Well, it's hard to do. So the inauguration was very nice, and I appreciated the mayor's State of the City address that was short and positive sounding, instead of having a separate meeting for the State of the City address where you have to talk like an hour and try to make something big about it. But the city's budget is in the black for the first time in a long, long time. We have the largest grants we've ever received. I think we're starting out the year in a really great position. So if you can all continue to work well together, and the staff here is amazing, and everybody's working together, and I feel very positive about the city. And I wish more people would come down here and talk. I mean, I know what happened to everybody, but
Cold weather.
cold, well, doesn't stop me, I'm old. But anyways, the bike trail, and I read the pamphlet they put together for this program. It's a very impressive pamphlet and maps and everything, and it's very good, and I appreciate the work that was done on it. But there's a couple things in it. One was that there was reference to South Joseph Campo, which I'm sure you don't mean south. There is no South Joseph Campo. You meant south of Joseph Campo, I'm sure, or the south end and the north end. I finally figured it out. So I heard there's great ideas for the north end of Joseph Campo, north of Kniff. I'm very excited about that. That's in the plans. But the bike trail is a disaster. I mean, this bike trail really ruined the city. And somebody got sold a bill of goods, just like the parking meters. And you're trying everything you can to fix this. It's very hard to fix without losing money or having not a lot of parking spaces. So we're putting a Yemen Park in that space where people are parking now, so it's gonna put pressure on us now that we're gonna take away 10 parking spots when we put that park in there. It's gonna be even tougher. I like the ideas that you compromised to go down Holbrook and stuff. Can I ask for 10 more seconds? Or what is
You can have
one more minute? Okay. I think that the bike trail, you should really research how many people are using that thing. I swear I haven't seen more than 4 people ride a bicycle on that thing in the last year. It's probably more, but if you put a camera up there and count them, I think we'll find out that this is a total waste of money. Our city is not prepared for that. So maybe Detroit is, or maybe some other area is, and we'll have to see how much business it brings, but I'm not happy. Was that includes my extra minute?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's quick.
All right, so then let me find, as long as everyone can hear everybody and when they're speaking, that's what the goal is here. And, I appreciate the 2 young men who are on the staff now that came, Brandon, I forgot the other guy's name. Anthony, 2 good guys that are gonna help the city a lot too, just like everybody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No one else?
Chief Ann.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I wanted to take this opportunity to update the community. After a long and rewarding career with the Hamtramck Police Department, I have decided to retire.
Oh.
This is my This will be my last council meeting, and I will be leaving at the end of this month. My husband retired almost 4 years ago, and it's time for me to join him, and so we can do some traveling and some other things together. I have been the chief of police for almost 9 years, having been appointed in March of 2015. I do want to thank the city and the community for allowing me to serve as their chief. People who know me know that I don't normally talk about myself. I don't usually brag about myself, but I do want to point out some highlights from my career. I was hired in January of 1999 and was sponsored in the police academy by the city of Hamtramck. I spent several years working on patrol, both on afternoons and midnights. I was a training officer and the city's hostage negotiator. In 2009, I became the first female command officer in Hamtramck's history when I was promoted to sergeant. In 2011, I was promoted to lieutenant and put in charge of the patrol division. And in March of 2015, I was named chief of police, becoming the first female chief in Hamtramck's 100-year history. As chief, I've been involved in a lot of community engagement activities. I have implemented an online training program for our officers. I have significantly increased the diversity in the police department. I have applied for and received over $2 million in grants for police equipment. In 2022, I was named Officer of the Year by my department and Hamtramck Community Initiative. In July of 2023, I was featured on WXYZ's Check-In with the Chief. I have brought several items of technology and upgrades to the police department, which I think really benefits the community. But I've had a very rewarding career, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that the city has provided me. You've allowed me to serve as your chief, and I miss everyone, and I wish the city great success.
All right,
Call for
thank,
public comment.
thank you, Chief and Moise. We appreciate your service to the community. We should have prepared for a farewell party for you here if we had knew before. But thank you so much for your service, and we will, we and the whole community will miss you. And hopefully we can come up with a plan to, appoint a chief of police in a smooth process and fair and equal opportunity for all. Thank you so much. So we're done with the public comments, and we move to the consent agenda. And this is approved in a single motion with no discussion. We have approval of minutes from the December 12, 2023 regular city council meeting, approval of invoice registered date ending January 9, 2024, approval of pre-approved expenditure date ending January 8, 2024.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So now we move to the new businesses. We have first resolution 2024-02 approving McKenna contract.
Motion.
Second.
Any,
Mayor?
yes, sir?
So, I'll start this out, and I also have, of course, John and Amir to quarterback this as well. We've been working on this contract for a number of months, going back and forth, negotiating with McKenna, and trying to explore what the best options are for the city. Over the time and prior to that, we've spoken with many of you here as well. And the overwhelming opinion that I got from council over the time was that they wanted to see a lot of the jobs come back into City Hall rather than being dependent upon an outside contractor. I agree with that because frankly, I believe that we can provide better service than any outside contractor can. Not that I'm saying McKenna has done necessarily bad for us by all means, but I think that our own people, for a better cost, give better service. And we have significantly scaled back the McKenna contract here to the tune of what we believe we're gonna be saving around $300,000 from that contract, in addition to having our own people fill it. It is our hope that we approve this and move forward. It's going from basically McKenna running our full building department, all the way from the clerks to the final inspection, to simply now providing us one clerk, and just the trade inspections, which is simply the electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. And the reason for that is that we don't need full-time people for that, and we would actually have to share that service with another city. So for the time being, it seems to suit the city the best to institute this plan and see where it goes from here. We anticipate it to work good, and maybe even scale it back even more on the next round. So we propose a one-year contract at this time, with 2 options to renew for a year as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councilman.
as we now changing to in-house, are we planning to hire people now in the
Well-
building department, or are we using the same people that we have now?
So we've taken some additional steps as well to cross over our code enforcement with our building. And we have changed some staffing, and we're also sharing some of the services internally. We have hired a couple people internally to do just that already, so we've already picked up some of those tasks. And our DPS director, John, is also gonna be picking up the mantle of building official, which essentially for us just needs to be a part-time position. It's more of a figurehead position than anything. I mean, he will have to dedicate some hours a week to it, but there's not a need for a full $120,000 employee just for that position anymore. So we are trying to be as efficient as possible and also increase our work product.
Okay. Previously, was the DPS director and the building, director, was it one person?
So DPS years ago, I think, had some crossover. But the problem with that is not every department head can do that. I mean, building official takes a lot of extra schooling and qualifications that we're fortunate enough that Mr. DeAngelis already has. So we're taking advantage of that situation. But usually that's in itself a position that takes years of schooling to even attain. We're lucky to have, like I said, John, to be able to do both DPS and that. And we're actually saving a significant amount of money by doing it that way.
Okay. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
All right, any further discussion? John, you wanna say something about that too?
Well, with the, like Max already said, combining some of the workforce that we already have, you don't have to be a licensed inspector to do rental inspections.
Yep.
We have a code department sitting there just looking at garbage cans and lawn grass and things like that. And it's my goal to train them to where, and they've already started, to start being able to do some of the rental inspections themselves. So we can have a little bit of crossover with existing employees already. And we only need one building inspector, because now I can dedicate, the building inspector used to do a little bit of rental, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But with code taking up some of the rentals, now we have a dedicated building inspector, concentrate on the building department per se itself, which is really good. Plus, paying the McKenna prices or subcontractor agreement on doing rental inspections is crazy because you don't need those licenses and the certifications to do that. So when I looked at the department and where the money was going and allocation, how it was going, it just made more sense to bring it all in. And it was at one time under DPS anyways, so it just made sense to do it.
We believe it's gonna be a lot more efficient.
All right,
Mr.
we
Chairman.
hope so, and
We'll go vote for it. Mr.
because
Chairman.
we have so many, I mean, we heard over the past couple of years, so many complaints about building department, and taking into consideration that houses in Hamtramck are very old, over 100 years old, and sometimes the demands can be a little bit difficult to renovate or update the house or building with all, just like it was built recently. And people believe there was some conflict of interest because 75% will go to McKenna, I believe, and only 25% for the city. So the community believed that people were going too hard on them.
That's one nice thing about having the building inspector here and the building official in-house, because we can look at everything like a cycle. A lot of communities I've been with, they'll say, we're really gonna concentrate on roofs, but you don't wanna go to a homeowner and tag the roof and tag a bunch of cement work, or tag their windows and a roof. You try to work with the community in what is realistic and what's common sense, instead of trying to basically force somebody to put tons of money in their house all at one time. We can have a better program so the community can be aware of it. And then the other advantage with not doing the mechanical, the plumbing, and the electrical is those fees are not assessed based on the cost of the job. They're a flat fee. So it's the least profitable item, not profitable, I'd say the least revenue collection point is the trade inspections, because all the fees are associated to the building side of the permit and the rentals side of the permit, of doing rental inspections. So, for an example, out of an $800,000 revenue, about $112,000 of it was the mechanicals. So it had the least amount of revenue coming from that to sustain doing the department in-house. So that's why keeping the rentals in-house and keeping the building inspector in-house, the majority of the revenue would stay in-house.
We'll be listening to your guys' concerns and the community's concerns and trying to take appropriate measures.
Okay, thank you. We can go ahead and vote then.
Councilman Hassan,
Yes.
Councilman Al Samiri,
Yes.
Councilman Sidman,
Yes.
Councilman Musa,
Yes.
Councilman Rafai,
Yes.
Councilman Mahmoud?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, Resolution 2024-02 approved.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Next one is Resolution 2024-03, approval to publish notice of intent to issue revenue bonds.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, this is also kind of a collaboration effort. I have our controller here today. I believe we also have a Baird representative, if I'm not mistaken, in regards to this. This is specifically dealing with the Goodson project in its entirety of the large sewer main going across the whole tear out that we've been talking about for a while. This is our backup plan, but I'll let Amir.
Yeah, okay, so let's first talk about what the project is. It's basically a project where we are replacing the sewer and, we are connecting it. And along with that, there is a sewer televising and cleaning portion of it. So these two items total about 11.5 million. In addition to that, there is another 2 million of Goodson water main that we are going to replace, for which we already have a grant in place. So the 11.5 million, we need to, fund it through a revenue bond. And in order to go through and get that revenue bond going, the first step in that is to issue this notice of intent. On the other hand, we have already applied for FEMA grant for this particular project as well. That grant has not officially been communicated to us, even though on their website it says that, it has been approved and all that. So we are still waiting for that formal approval and communication from them. If that grant comes in, then obviously we will not be utilizing the revenue bond, and we will stop, all the process wherever we are. But we don't, because this is a very critical project, so we don't want to, just rely on the FEMA grant to pay for it. In case the FEMA grant doesn't come through, we need to have, a revenue bond pay for it. So that's the whole concept behind this.
I have a little more backdrop on this. This is basically the Phase 1B of the sewer relief program, that whole $60 million project that we eventually have to do and get done anyways. The timing of this doesn't afford us to just sit here and wait for the FEMA
grant.
project.
Yeah.
So it mainly was a timing issue to apply for the bonds. We're still waiting for FEMA. And basically what this section of the project will do, it'll alleviate just north of Holbrook, the south side of the city, for sewage going into people's basements. So basically the south side of the city, it's gonna alleviate a lot of that sewer backup situation. That's what this part of the phase will do. Also help up some of Joseph Campo going north and Joseph Campo a little bit.
And the timing is critical because there is a certain timeline that we have to follow with Eagle for applying for a revenue bond for this year. So if we miss this timeline, we will then have to wait a whole year to, apply for this revenue bond again. So for that process, today was the day to submit the application to Eagle, which we have submitted also. And so notice of intent is the first step in that whole process.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, President.
I know previously, before you came, and also John and also Max, when Kathy was still here, we did come with a plan that our water and service, fund, it's available to cover Goodson. So, and that's been, the beginning of the year that we came to council. And now it's been moved, this is the third year now. And now, if we still have the money, why are we going through the process of being a bond? That's like we're getting we're getting a loan, right? Correct? And that there's
We
an
are,
interest.
We are.
How come now,
I don't,
how come now we're moving to that
because
process?
we don't have that for this particular project.
There's a lot of phases to this, so the Phase 1, first part, yeah. But when initially this project was brought forward before my tenure, back in 2021, the bids came in ridiculous, all the prices were crazy. So Hennessy held back the project because the pricing was way out of hand. It's now gotten better. Even if, say, the worst case scenario, now we've been approved on their website, but not formally approved. That's the only reason we're just taking a precautionary step. But say the grant didn't come in exactly right away and we had to start using some of the funding from the bonds. We're still responsible for 25% of that project anyways, even with the grant. So what would happen in that case, whatever funds we've started to use to get the project going, we can cease, accept the grant, and we're done at that point. Or if we have not taken any of the funds from the bond, we don't have to go forward, we don't have to close the loan. So basically, this is just semantics of trying to get it, so we don't lose the window.
And what's the total bond are we trying to take?
11 million here.
So it's 11 million?
11.5 million.
Okay, so we're getting this bond for 11 point some million.
Mhm.
So now, let's say FEMA say you approved for how much?
We've got
Let's say FEMA says you get the full grant,
Okay,
okay, that would be 9 million. We would still require, and let's say the project ends up at 11.5, so we will still need to pay 2.5 million out of our fund, out of our pocket. So at that stage, we can use, just 2.5 million from this,
what,
this bond. In case FEMA says you get not 9 million, but 5 million, then that will be the difference between what the project cost is. Now, if the project cost, instead of coming in at 11.5 million, it comes to, let's say, 12 million or 13 million, then, some of this revenue bond can pay for it.
so there's no penalty by getting these bonds if we don't use all that money?
No, there is no penalty as such, but we do have to pay for the,
portion.
we do have to pay for the cost of the revenue bond. So there is a cost involved in terms
How
of
much you do?
engaging the advisors, in terms of engaging, bond agents, in terms of engaging, getting ratings for the city through S&P. So all of that activity, total of that is around $100,000. So some of that, if we don't go for it, depending on at what stage we are, it could be anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 would be the cost if we don't go for it at all. If we go for it, then that 100,000 will be recovered from the proceeds of the bond anyway. So these are bond costs that you have to pay anyway.
Okay.
And right now, what we've done, I've been on the meetings with FEMA on this. I said we've been informally granted it at a 75% already. But the meetings, the Zoom meetings I've had with FEMA, they keep coming back with wanting additional questions, looking at the blueprints of the project, why do we need the whole Goodson Street done, including sidewalks and curbs? I fought them on that. I said, because you can't dig a hole 18 feet in the ground straight down. You're gonna cave it in. You gotta follow OSHA standards. So there's a lot of things we've been going back and forth with FEMA. And it's not the only city here. Southgate is in the same boat we are right now, with FEMA on the same discussion, so.
So last question, when is this project gonna start? If we,
Next year.
I think it'll start probably in 25, not
first-
24. Because, first of all, we need to get the revenue in place. That'll take a few months. And then we have to go for the bidding. That'll take some time. So I don't see it starting this year.
I think formally starting next year, but by the time they get shovels in the ground, it could go a little bit further, but.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions? So, did we have some money for this project from before? I remember Kathy was telling us we have some, but the bid came higher. What was that money?
I believe you did have some money for this project before, but it was in that one of those first sections that we've already completed, because now we're already into another phase of it.
So as far as the waterfront is concerned, it's an enterprise fund. So whatever costs that we incur, it has to be paid through the revenues generated. And those revenues are generated either through grants or through water charges, sewer charges, and so on and so forth.
Yes, Matt, did you wanna say anything?
No, they summed it up pretty well. Anxious to get this going. I really wish it had already been going by now. This is one of those projects that keeps getting stalled on us, but I mean, we're taking the steps. We're kind of at FEMA's mercy to some degree, so we're doing what we gotta do to
And you-
get to the finish line.
Yeah, I think the thing that we need to understand is that this is a bond that we will be getting at 1%. You know, so it's a very good price,
And it's through the state, correct?
right? It's through Eagle.
Okay, so you guys know if it is good, we trust you guys, and we have to do it.
We
then
have
we'll
to
go.
do this
Okay,
project.
that's all we need, that's all. Go ahead and, Mr. Mayor, I think it's discussion enough.
All right.
Yeah,
I mean,
so while we're talking, we know that exactly we need it.
did you wanna, are you related
Now
to
we're
this
gonna get
project?
it.
He's the one, he's the money guy.
Yeah.
I am.
Did you wanna add anything?
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
if you would.
I mean,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Mayor, Mr. Pro Tem, members of the council, administration. My name is Eric McLaughlin. I'm a partner with Dickinson Wright Law Firm, a member of its public finance group. I'm the city's bond attorney. I'm not a representative of Baird, that's a
Yeah.
separate consultant.
Yeah.
But I've prepared the resolution for you, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to emphasize something Mr. Hassan said about it being the first step in the process. So there are two formal legal actions that the city council will take with respect to the bonds. This one is to authorize the publication of a notice of intent, which is required by state law. It starts a 45-day referendum period, after which if the city has not received any petitions for election, you can proceed, you have obtained the authority to issue bonds, and you can proceed to issue the bonds. We will be back to you at a future date with a formal bond resolution that actually authorizes the issuance of bonds. The resolution tonight does not authorize the issuance of them, it authorizes publication of notice of intent only. Once the notice of intent is published, the city is not obligated to issue bonds. It's not obligated to issue bonds in any particular amount. It merely sets the maximum ceiling of bonds, of the amount of bonds that you can issue. So that's why it says 11.5 million. It's designed to cover the entire project in case we need that authority to borrow in the future. So in one step, it's a legal procedural step, and the other aspect, the other way to consider it is it's sort of protected. It protects the city's ability to be able to borrow the funds it needs to complete the project if for some reason FEMA doesn't come through with the grant like they're expected to. So that, if there are any questions on the resolution, I'd be happy to take them now, but I did want to emphasize that this is the first step. Does not actually authorize the bonds, you'll be asked to do that later with a much more detailed resolution.
Yeah.
This just publishes the notice of intent to get the legal process started.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's good to clarify that there's no obligation at this stage for the city. It's just an authority, it's just a notice of intent.
Okay, all right, thank you so much, thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we can go ahead and vote on this.
Councilman Hassan,
Yes.
Councilman Al Samiri,
Yes.
Councilman Sedman,
Yes.
Councilman Mahmoud,
Yes.
Councilman Musa,
Yes.
Councilman Rafai.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, resolution 2024-03 approved.
Thank you. Thank you. Next one is resolution 2024-04, approving engagement appointment of Robert W. Baird and CO for municipal advisory services.
Motion. Second.
Mr. Mayor, this is the companion resolution, basically, we just need to know.
Okay. You can
Councilman
go.
Mahmoud,
Yes.
Councilman Sedman,
Yes.
Councilman Musa,
Yes.
Councilman Rafai,
Yes.
Councilman Al Samiri,
Yes.
Councilman Hassan.
No.
Mr. Mayor, resolution 2024-04 approved.
Thank you. The last one is presentation and discussion on Hamtramck Bike and Trail Networks.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, I have our CED staff here to go through this. They've put a lot of work in this, and hopefully we got a good presentation for you.
Thank you.
Bear with me.
Good evening, thank you all. We are here to talk about Hamtramck's Bike Trail Network. This is the bike lanes that are being installed along Joseph Campo and Holbrook. So that you can see on the map here in the left side, you can see the difference between the city of Detroit, Hamtramck, Highland Park, and then there's Dearborn. The bike lanes are part of a wider network. They will be a part of a network that goes throughout Metro Detroit, encompassing 4 communities. So tonight we'll go over an introduction to the regional loop, where it will be going, in economic community benefits of multimodal transportation review, and then we'll go over the 4 different segments of the bike lanes, and then we'll look at the completed segments in Metro Detroit that have already been done. My colleague Alessandra and I recently were able to go to Dearborn and see the opening of the trail on Warren, and it was beautiful what was completed already. And tomorrow we are holding a public engagement meeting at 5:30 at the library. We welcome you all to join us so we can get public feedback and hear what residents are looking to see in the bike lanes. So the regional loop is a regional asset. It is not simply just bike lanes that are going through Hamtramck. We have a strong bike community already here in Metro Detroit. I point out, as growing up in Dearborn, we were right next to Heinz Drive, and on Saturdays in the summer, Heinz Drive is closed to all vehicle traffic, and it is open to pedestrians, open to bikers, rollerbladers, anybody who's looking to get out and be a healthy activity. But the regional loop will go from the Riverwalk in Detroit to the DeQuincy Cut, up to Hamtramck, entering through near American Axle, going north through the community, going north beyond the city, north of Carpenter, on Joseph Campo, then turning westerly into Highland Park, going all the way through Highland Park, and then it will make its way to the Dearborn border and then connect back downtown Detroit. So this is an asset that everyone in the community can take advantage of, and also it will provide overall economic benefit and also health to the community. So what are the goals of the project? The first goal is to use government funding and grants that are specifically used to be used towards multimodal transportation and public space redevelopment for recreation. The grants that we are applying for and looking to receive to fund this project do not, for the most part, require a local match. So it is not required funds from the city. It is funds that are devoted specifically for multimodal transportation. They cannot be used on other projects, they can't be used on any other capital, they cannot be used for any other project that we are looking to get done here in Hamtramck. If we don't use the funds, they'll go back to the federal government and be given to another community to be used. The second goal is to help businesses grow in Hamtramck as a result of the completed project and attract companies and talent. Bike lanes have shown to improve economic activity and attract new customers to downtowns. The third goal is to be better connected with Detroit, Dearborn, Highland Park via a healthy, active transportation loop. Right now, you can get down to the Riverwalk in 25 minutes, and we are looking forward to seeing that you can get downtown to Highland Park and to Dearborn through healthy means. I now hand over to my colleague, Alessandro.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll talk a little bit on that. So this is not, I think what we saw in Hamtramck was a bit disproportionate versus about seeing the whole project. People saw the project go up. We didn't know what they were for. Most people don't know. The name of this project is called the Joe Louis Greenway, which people don't really know what that is. So that's why we kind of want to phrase this as the bike loop, just to make it easier for people to understand what this is. So whenever you hear the name Joe Louis Greenway, this is what this project is, the regional project. So you might hear that in the news. There's a lot of portions already being built. So kind of reiterating what Austin was just saying, the grants that we are applying, so first of all, I think the main concern, we did a public engagement online. There was a survey that went out, a lot of people answered it in the community. The main concern was the money people had, said, why are we spending money on this? Why don't we do the alleys? Why don't we do the water? Why don't we do this? And all that to say is this project is not gonna be paid for with the general fund. It's not gonna be paid for with the road fund. It's gonna be paid through grants that, it says, projects that are only for recreation, and it can't be for parking. It can't be for car, infrastructure. It can't be for alleys. It can't be for anything of the sort. A lot of the grants were kind of started during COVID to promote active living and kind of promote a better health. So a lot of the grants that we're applying for are to create kind of public recreation facilities. So you see a lot of other communities have made kind of outdoor gyms, or they've made kind of like better improving on parks. So this is all kind of related to getting our community more active. That has health benefits, that has property value benefits, it has a lot of community benefits. So we just want to reiterate that. So I know people will ask you, say, take off the bike lanes from on the south part of Joseph Campo. Don't do this. Why are they there? Why do we spend money on that? And that's to say we didn't spend money. This was all part of grants that are for this specifically.
So we'd like to take a look at a case study that was in Memphis, Tennessee, where they did bring in bike lanes that were not there previously. It is known as the Broad Avenue Art District of Memphis. It was formerly a bustling commercial downtown district with businesses throughout and was walkable. But as time went on, businesses started to move out of the district. It became abandoned. A lot of businesses were no longer utilized. They actually increased the speed limit on that road, so it became more of a highway, and the walkability of it decreased. Residents in about '06 started looking at what could be done in that district, and in 2010, they started a road diet and a complete street redesign of this district in Tennessee. The team redesigned the street level public spaces to illustrate how better infrastructure, especially focused on bicycles and pedestrian, can breathe life into a commercial district. They were successful. Actually, the residents were really excited about it and even went out and painted some of the lanes themselves. And the data you see here on the slide is from 2 years after the project completion. There were 6 new businesses, 29 property renovations, 70 that were formerly blighted, and there was a 30% per year revenue growth for businesses on this road. After 5 years, there was $20 million in private investment and the opening of more than 24 new businesses. They also experienced a decrease in traffic accidents and pedestrian injuries, and that is part of having enhanced roadways where you do have road diets with bike lanes, which require residents to slow down and also recognize what is in front of them more and pay attention to their surroundings while on the roadway. Hoboken, New Jersey experienced a decrease of 30% of pedestrian injuries when they introduced their bike lanes. Bike lanes have proven to increase residential and commercial real estate values. Studies across the U.S. have shown that people are willing to pay a premium for a home if it is near bicycle infrastructure, such as bicycle lanes, and they can easily access community amenities. There were study after study I found that showed that homes closer to bike trails sold for more, between $9,000 to $11,000 more. And one of the biggest concerns here in the community is property taxes. And under state law, the annual increase in property taxes is capped at 5% or no more than the annual inflation rate. So whichever one's lower, if it's 5% or the annual inflation rate is lower, that is where you can max out on your taxes. It will not increase. So this past year, the inflation rate was 7.3%, so the 5% cap was where it was at. So home values could not increase more, or taxes could not increase more. Now, on an average year, inflation is between 3% and 4%, so that is where the cap is for taxes. So if we do see an increase in real estate values or the bike trail, as long as you keep the home or it stays in your family, it is capped at 5%, or if the inflation rate's lower, that is the increase that will go to. This example here is the Monon Trail in Indiana. The homes within a half mile of the trail sell for an average of 11% more than similar homes farther away. And there's similar studies in Ohio, in Portland, and on the East Coast. Bike lanes have proved to increase retail visibility in sales volumes. The first protected bike lanes you see here were installed in Manhattan on 8th and 9th Avenues. Studies indicate that bike lanes improve economic activity at retail establishments or have no effect on business sales. 23 studies have proven this over and over again. Bikers actually frequent businesses more often than other people who use other modes of transportation. They will bike to the same business and they will purchase their needs at the same establishment over and over again, because that is part of the culture where you can get out and be part of the community where you're seeing each business. You're not just driving past it in your car, you're actually next to pedestrians, biking and seeing what is going on in those businesses that are kind of tucked away, that are hard to see. On bikes, you can see them better. Studies in Colorado and Wisconsin indicate that cyclists bring in over $1 billion to their local economies. A study done by the Michigan Department of Transportation in 2014, and this is 10 years old at this point, indicated that economic benefits of biking estimated to provide the state a total economic benefit of approximately $668 million annually. The report concluded that that bicycling should be a key component for larger economic development strategies, especially those when considering the economic benefits of bicycle-related activities. There's currently a shift away from single automobiles use. This can be seen especially in the lifestyle of younger generations and millennials and Generation Z. They're bicycling 20% more, 24% more than previous generations, using public transportation 40% more, and are using single automobiles 23% less than previous generations. More employers we attract to the city, the more employees, which will increase the city's revenue from income tax. So we want to attract employers that are attracting young people, where there are high-value jobs, which would help the city overall by having more revenue through income tax. So looking for those type of jobs, those type of employers, we want to bring them to the city of Hamtramck. Amazon, when they put out their RFQ for their second headquarters here in the US, in the RFQ, or it was an RFP actually, it stated bike lanes twice, that the locale that they wanted to move to had bike lanes available. A study done by the University of Massachusetts at Amherst showed that an investment of $1 million in bicycle infrastructure creates 11.4 local jobs, while investment of $1 million in road and car infrastructure creates 7.8 jobs. In one of the mayors of the largest cities in the U.S., former mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, he said, after investing a significant amount of money in bike lanes throughout the city, you cannot be for a startup, high-tech economy and not be pro-bike. Bike lanes make workers and residents healthier and more productive as well. Not everyone has the same opportunity to be physically active, and bicycling provides that opportunity. Research has shown that physical activity improves mental health and overall mental performance. It helps prevent unhealthy weight gain, reduces the risk of many chronic diseases such as heart disease, cancer, and type 2 diabetes, helps reduce feelings of anxiety, and improves sleep quality, improves cognitive ability, and reduces the risk of dementia. It also improves bone and muscular health. And also, the studies have shown that actually promoting healthier travel options in the workplace has shown to reduce absenteeism by up to 20%. In regional trail, this is my favorite statistic that I found, a regional trail in Portland, Oregon helps area residents avoid gaining 17 million pounds each year, saving the region $155 million per year in obesity-related healthcare costs. And I'll pass it back over to Caroline.
So, I realized after we posted this slide that we didn't just include like a general map, so I just we created
Thank
this today to create some context. So I apologize about that. Actually, Alessandro, I need one more. You have one more, please?
That's okay. I share it.
You share? Okay. You can go back to that presentation. Sorry. I should have said, keep the presentation. Okay, so this first section that I want to talk about is basically the part that starts at Hamtramck Drive and Joseph Campo and goes up to Holbrook. I should have put that in the title, but that's when I was saying kind of like the south side of the city. It's that section from Hamtramck Drive, when you're coming in from the south, all the way up to Holbrook. Now that's the area where we already have bike lanes, right? That's the area where the lands have already been installed. The community has communicated, several problems. The main one was loss of parking in that area. We've actually had a lot of meetings, we've gone on site, talked to the businesses, we've worked with engineers, we're trying to find solutions to that, so that's part of why we're here today, and that's why we're starting with this. Because why talk about the other routes, when we're not talking about the route that, already is, that we're trying to make it better. Another issue is that it's currently not connected to anything. It's just like a lane that starts nowhere and goes nowhere. And so that's why, when we were talking about the whole 30-mile loop, goes through 4 cities, it would connect. And if you go south, eventually Hamtramck Drive, the one that hasn't been repaved yet, would be fixed. And there'd be a very green bike path there with a lot of plants, and that would take you down to the riverfront. So I know right now it doesn't seem like it goes anywhere, but that segment would eventually connect to the riverfront. You could get to the riverfront in about 25 minutes on a bike. So in terms of the fixes with the parking, we do want to take these into consideration and figure out ways to fix them. So we've, working with Hennessy, put together this plan. If you look at the bottom, this is just part of the engineering document. We couldn't put the whole thing on the screen, but I do have them here if anybody wants to see it. If you look at the bottom, you'll see angled parking. So on the bottom of the screen, it would be Veterans Park. And then on the top would be several businesses, including Hamtramck City Market and the medical building that is just south of the market. So that's just to provide context. You see that there would be additional parking spots provided by angled parking. As well as we would be adding 2 crosswalks. One at Goodson, which is shown kind of like with the crossing lines. Thank you. And then a new one that's not on the screen that would either be at Dan or an upgraded crossing at Andrus Street. So basically the crosswalk would have 2 effects. It would help people who are parking across the street, go to the area where the shopping is. At the same time, it would really provide a lot of safety for people who are trying to get to the park. Because if you're walking to the park right now, there's not a real safe way to cross and get to the park. So it would help in multiple ways. So that's that segment. We put a diagram of a rapid flashing beacon. Is that what it's called, Troy? Thank you. Yeah, we put a diagram. So it would be a safer crosswalk because you'd be able to push one of those buttons and have the lights and just warn people about pedestrians that are, so they can slow down. We can go on to the next one. Okay, so on the map that I just handed out, you'll see there's a little segment going off to the side on Holbrook. That's technically not part of the regional loop. It's not technically part of the what's known as the Greenway, the John Lewis Greenway. But this is the segment that has the most, we get the most requests for this lane. So this lane specifically has the most community support. It's listed in our 2010 master plan, it's listed in our 2020 master plan. The reason is because it would connect us by bike to Midtown, to Wayne State University, and to the North End neighborhood, which is up and coming. I don't know if you're familiar with the North End neighborhood, but property values were very low and they're rising quickly, and a lot of people are investing in the North End neighborhood. So we just put a quote there from 2020 community feedback about, this being really the most needed bike lane. And again, this is for people who might be going to work or to school, who might not have a car, or just want like a cheaper, healthier way to commute to places. We can go to the next segment. So on the bottom is like a screenshot of the engineering plan. Again, this is a Holbrook bike lane from Joseph Campo to St. Aubin, which is the Detroit border. So the top pictures have two examples of a protected bike lane, which are, by the way, much safer than unprotected bike lanes. These protected bike lanes would be on the south side of Holbrook. And so you can see like the two-way bike lane right there in that document. This is just, again, a snippet. The full engineering document is posted online. I will be here after as well if you want to look at that document. I have it in paper. So we'll just go all the way across Holbrook and connect us to Midtown. Go to the next slide. So there are two options. There's a regular Holbrook option, which is in green. It really just stays in Holbrook. Then there's another option where it would dip down south and go on Guymer and then come back. I believe the option on the left is preferred and it would be safer. It would also be much cheaper as well to build the option on the left. If you go back to the previous slide. In terms of funding, I know that the team touched on this, but this would probably fit into the climate action plan and be funded by climate reduction grants. So it would not, again, relate to city funds. It relates to things that relate to pollution and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And now, actually, we have Spalding DeDecker here, Cassie's here, to talk about the alleyway.
Good evening. My name's Cassie Meidel with Spalding DeDecker. We were engaged last summer to develop concepts for sections of the Joseph Campo Alley segment and engage the community for feedback on those concepts as well. So first looking at the intersection, and it was from Holbrook, so specifically the Joseph Campo Holbrook intersection. What you don't see on this rendering would be the south Holbrook bike lanes at this time. But when we looked at it, how do you connect from the existing lanes on Joseph Campo through the intersection and then turning left to enter the alley? Safety is the biggest concern at this intersection, and so we determined that going through the alley at the light would be safer than turning and then trying to cross Holbrook right before the traffic signal. So we also propose a yield turning sign, which you can't see, but it's the red box in the middle of the intersection for cars turning left. Improvements or upgrades to the crossing, so there's a signalized crossing for bicyclists as well, and aligning the lanes, which would be on the other side of Holbrook, or on Holbrook on the other side of Joseph Campo, which right now you've got lanes that they're not perfectly aligned across the intersection. So parking on the north side so that middle line between the bike lane would be straight through, which would help provide clear direction and mitigate risk of collision. And we propose a raised, so protected, raised bike lane on that north side to provide some separation, since it would be two-way traffic. Then we looked at, thank you, the A block segment. So as an example, we picked a block segment. This is Poland to Norwalk that really had all of the elements and challenges in this segment. So the existing conditions of the alley, right, are great, recently paved. We also recognize that the alley must be maintained as a shared space for businesses who are receiving deliveries, for customers and employees who are also parking in parking areas there. Also, residents who are accessing the residential area go through the alley there, and then just alley users. So even in our observations, for multiple days, multiple different times, we observed people walking to prayer, very common route, prayer on both sides. Shoppers, a lot of bicyclists with like grocery bags on their handlebars because they were picking up a few things. Families and school kids, groups of kids, and we asked them, why the alley? Like why are you choosing here? And a lot of people said they felt safer to them. It was more, someone said there was more sunshine, it was literally warmer than the street. So you have people that were using the alley today and recognizing that that's already a shared space, so how can we improve safety for all of the users? Which is why we did not propose, a protected bike lane there. It's striping the lane. It's just marking the lane, knowing that there's going to be moments of crossing and intersecting.
So will it be shared by cars and bicycles?
It is today, and it's not striped. So the other challenge is that there's dumpsters throughout, which create a lot of obstacles. So it would be shared, not obstructed. Propose designating some like delivery areas, so that people have a visual clue as to where they should stop. And removing the angled dumpsters that actually create the biggest safety concern today as cars and bicyclists or pedestrians are moving between those spaces. By offering a consolidated dumpster enclosure, which would change the perception of the alley as well today. You can tell business owners try to keep it clean, right? But multiple alleys means multiple stains on the concrete, and just multiple risk of debris not ending up in the designated container. So that would be a proposed improvement as well. And we ran, next slide, thank you. So we took those renderings and concepts and brought them to the folks that were using the alley today, including some businesses. We also, thank you to the team for arranging an Arabic speaking interpreter so that we were inclusive of feedback. And some comments received were that the city desperately needs safe pathways and for cyclists and pedestrians. Additionally, it would be great to have a path that connects Hamtramck to surrounding areas. It's great to have an easier way to get into Hamtramck on my bike. There's plenty of places, outside the city, but this would make me go there more often because I'd have a way to connect. And then my favorite, but when I first heard about the Joe Louis Greenway being in the alley, I thought it was dumb. Now I've been biking in the alley over the last week, and I'm choosing to use it as my route, and they said it's nice, and I like it. The condition is actually better than other alleys. And that was a person, who was using it as a commuter route as well. So, and a local stakeholder, a teacher at Hamtramck High School. Anyone, before I hand it back, anyone have any questions?
Yeah, are we done with the presentation?
I'm gonna do a little bit, one more section and then we'll be done.
Because we have a lot of questions. So
I have a recap too that I want to talk about.
So you want me to finish it and then?
I mean, if you can, because.
Okay, so there are multiple design options for Joseph Campo between Kniff and Carpenter. Here are 3 different engineering options, split on both sides of the street, 2 bike lanes on just one side, 2-way bike lane, or even going down the middle. We'll go to the next slide. Here are just some visuals. This was a rendering from about 5 years ago. Notice that because the street is much wider, if we did something like this, we wouldn't actually lose any parking spots because you can still fit parking on the other side of the bike lanes. So that would be a good thing. Go to the next one. Here's an example from Detroit. They redid the entire streetscape, including, trees and benches and just adding in a lot more amenities. Go to the next slide. Here's another example of a bike lane that goes down the middle of the street, from another city. So we don't have a, plan to design for this. There's a bunch of options that we could do for, Caniff, for Joseph Campo between Caniff and Carpenter. And then we're gonna talk about a few of the segments from other cities.
Yeah, so our team has been able to go to several of the grand openings this year. I think we've gone to 3 or 4 already, whether it's beginning construction or finalizing construction. So we went to the Dearborn in West Warren. It was amazing to see how many people were there. A lot of state support, and even representatives from Washington coming to these openings. You can tell it's a big project for the metro area. And I think this kind of also shows Hamtramck being able to tap into kind of Detroit's investment. You see a lot of money going into downtown Detroit, but it's kind of being very concentrated, and you don't really see a lot of areas like us. We're not currently having the same traffic that downtown Detroit is having. But this connectivity kind of helps connect us to other communities. I know that most people don't bike every day or bike to work every day. Most people around here don't. But even having this infrastructure is gonna make people who bike semi-regularly, they have a bike and they're in downtown Detroit, they're gonna wanna do a loop or part of the loop, and they might go to Hamtramck and they don't even know about Hamtramck, but they're gonna follow the loop and kind of fall into it. Next slide. And just to finalize, tomorrow we're having a public meeting. We want to kind of educate the community and help people understand. I know this kind of this whole project, we've been trying to be overly transparent about it. Since a lot of people are very confused about the project, so we want to make sure people know. So this public meeting is specifically for the alley portion in Joseph Campo. So we're just trying to gather feedback.
We'll have materials for all the segments.
Yeah, we'll have information, but we're trying mainly to gather feedback because we're applying for grants for this part of the process. And there'll be halal food available thanks to the Joe Louis partnership, and the Amichis is also donating food. So it's a family-friendly event. It's a drop-in, so it's from 5:30 to 7:30. But you can just stop by and learn, or if you want to give feedback, if you say you don't like it, or if you have any sort of feedback, let constituents know that they can stop by.
Okay, thank
Mr.
you.
Chair.
Let me, I have a few points to make. So this is a good presentation from your point of view. I can tell you that some of those research studies that you mentioned and comments a little bit biased because they don't apply to a city like Hamtramck. They apply to bigger cities like the ones you mentioned. It's beneficial to those cities, but in a Hamtramck situation is unique. We have a small city, limited parking space already,
Yes.
a crowded city, and residents, not too many people prefer to ride bikes, they prefer to drive. And so we were already limited with parking spaces, and this will take more. When this was approved in 2019 or so, I didn't hear about that.
2018.
Or 18. No one, like the community was not consulted, or no one took the opinion of the community about this. Just like, excuse me, let me finish, please. And just like the parking meters, same thing. The community was not consulted. And now I get emails on daily basis or weekly from people getting tickets and sending me an email that I will never visit your city again because I got a ticket here and there. So I think it's hurting the businesses more than what we benefit from them. Same thing with the bike lines. I like to encourage riding bikes, but in Hamtramck, I think it's hurting businesses. That we are, it was summarized once by a small conversation that happened here between Bill Meyer and another person who commented and said that time, I'm happy I saw two bicycles, passing by Joseph Campo, and Bill Meyer said, I saw 100 cars driving around looking for parking spots. I see them every day. So we cannot, I mean, from my point of view, you can't restrict the whole side of a street for 6 months or 8 months to wait for the summertime for 2 bicycles to pass by Joseph Campo. I mean, it just doesn't make no sense. So when I ask you, is the alley shared by cars and bicycles? Because there's the street, the main street, Joseph Campo, is protected bike lanes and cannot be shared by cars and bicycles. And people are being ticketed if they stop in front of the business to, for example, to pick up some boxes from the store or something, even for a few minutes. So, like I said, Amtramck situation is unique, and I think it's not beneficial to the city. We are done now, and it's been designed, and we lost. There's so much money lost already. But if there's a way to look for an alternative pathway from south of Holbrook, to the.
If I may?
Yeah.
So, we've definitely heard everybody's concerns. I mean, we've all spoke to yourself and everyone on council and the community at this point. I mean, we all of us have been out there talking to the business owners and voicing the pros and cons, and believe it or not, we did have a few people that said they liked, well, actually a lot of people that said they liked it too. So there is a divide on this, I will say that, in our community. The business owners are probably the loudest, most vocal, 100%. But at the end of the day, we now basically have the Joe Louis Greenway on both ends of Hamtramck. We have it in the south and we have it in the north. They've designed it to come to us and basically pass through. I guess at the end of the day, we could snub them and say, no, we're not gonna participate in this at all and stop a regional project. I don't recommend it, but I mean, if that's what the council determines, we can certainly do that, because it's the council's
I think we should,
will.
sorry.
But with that said, we've expended hundreds of thousands of dollars in grant money to do the little portion we have. Wasn't us, I mean, it was in process when we got here, but what we're trying to do is make the best of it and help everyone that has been affected by this and design it accordingly for the future so that everyone's happy. Now, maybe not 100% happy, but at least something they can live with and that the people, are at a compromise. And with that said, the very first slide that we put up there tonight was an attempt to help those businesses that are pretty upset about this. We want to do the angled parking in front of Veterans Park and add some spots. In addition to that, we want to put a large crosswalk right there to increase the walkability directly to the party store that's very incensed about this. And generally just increase the walkability in that whole little area of what we've already done right now, so that it helps those businesses there in the long run. Now, will it be 100% what was there in the past? No, it won't, but I do believe, given a little time and a little construction, it'll probably be better in the long run. And not only that, but it'll, in addition, slow the traffic down through that segment of Joseph Campo, which everyone knows we have a problem with speeders and red lights and stop signs, and adding things like this will slow down the traffic. So at the end of the day, if a car pulls up into the angled parking spot and just quickly jumps across the street into the party store, what's another 40 feet as opposed to what we had there before? And hey, maybe at the end, maybe the bikers do come, maybe in a couple of years, and maybe it does increase the businesses, and maybe that does happen. But frankly, I don't really want to reverse tracks and spend a few $100,000 to repay the grant and then have to rip it out on top of it, and then what do we do there? I'd rather try to find the compromise here and move forward. And my hope is, at the end of our conversation here, council at least somewhat agrees that let's get moving on these angled sidewalks. Let's get moving on these crosswalks. Let's see if we can help the businesses there now. And then we brought the other plan to you today because we really, we want to talk about where we go from here. And we, top of our list is parking. We get it. We don't want to goof up parking in the rest of the community. And Holbrook is fairly wide open. We have a bunch of problems in Holbrook right now. I know there's been ask asks for crosswalks because of the new coffee shop and the mosque and other stuff there now. But our hope is that if we take the crosswalk going west on Holbrook, it serves a bunch of functions. We connect American Axle, which has asked for it. We connect to Midtown and Wayne State eventually, which would like to do that, and we've got a lot of community feedback that people want that. One of the other really big things is it slows down the traffic in Holbrook, because frankly, everyone speeds down Holbrook like crazy right now, and we do traffic enforcement in there, but the only true surefire way to slow that down is to narrow that street, and by adding a crosswalk through there, we do just that. Maybe we don't exactly put a crosswalk over for the mosque in the coffee shop there, but if we've limited the narrow field of the cars driving, now it's a heck of a lot safer for people to cross there. Additionally, no one parks next to the town center now, so we're not losing parking there. No one really parks in front of the senior plaza now, so we're not losing parking there. It's sporadic in front of Kowalski. Granted, Kowalski might be a little incensed about some spots being there, but frankly, they have a big parking lot. So at the end of the day, all we're doing is slowing down the traffic and increasing the the bikeability through there on that aspect. So I would hope that we approve that. Moving forward from there, where do we go to get up to Carpenter eventually? Well, we talked briefly about the West Joseph Campo Alley. As Mayor, you had asked, is that going to be shared? 100%. We intend for that to be shared. We know those businesses still need deliveries through there, so we intend that there still will be deliveries and there still will be cars, but we want to limit it. We want to do it to local and business traffic only. You know, if you're not living there or you're a business there, we don't want you going through the alley at that point. So people will still be able to go through. We want to do raised crosswalks over on every intersection there, so that it's safer for the bikes and the pedestrians to get through. And we also want to take all them dumpsters and be very strategic of what we do with them so they're out of that pathway and moved off to the side so that it looks good. And then ultimately we want to do murals all the way down there. I really do believe that will increase the business on Joseph Campo, because in my hopes is that with all the murals and the walkability and the bikeability, that it becomes a destination. I really think it will. I mean, we already have a mural behind Olamon, and heck, we're not even anywhere near finishing that, and they've already taken that step. So I think that'll happen. And then the very last variable of this is, what do we do at Kniff? That's going to be tricky. But there is a lot of money being thrown at this. I mean, the state of Michigan, I think, is funding $50 million alone, if I'm not mistaken, throwing it at this regional project, not to mention the huge foundations that are funding this as well. I think it's not out of the realm of possibilities that we could potentially even get funding to redevelop Joseph Campo, Kniff, all the way to Carpenter. It's an entirety. I'd like to see the whole area ripped out, infrastructure and all sidewalks all the way down to the dirt, where we redo all the infrastructure on Joseph Campo there and plan it exactly how we want it. Make it more walkable, make it more better for parking, make it aesthetically a hell of a lot better. You know, if we can do, by the Greenways assistance, from Kniff all the way to Carpenter and rip it out, that's a win. And there's a number of ways we can do that. We talked about maybe taking the bike lane right up the center of Joseph Campo. The master plan itself calls for a median in there now, a green space. Look at some of these other areas of Detroit where that's happened. Specifically, Livernois did that. They did a complete rip out. It's beautiful. I think we could do that. If we get this done and we protect the parking to our best of our abilities moving forward, we protect the you know, the overall transport of vehicles and everything all in its entirety, I think we can get this done with a compromise. Will everyone be 100% happy? No, but we're trying to make the absolute best of what we got. And I hope that you at least acquiesce to us getting the parking going in the south end and trying to get some money in for the rest of it at this point.
All right, I mean, I know we spent so much time and effort discussing this in the past. I mean, if the council wants to move on, give it a trial with the parking across the Veteran Park and the crosswalks and see how it works. If there's a way to put on Holbrook unprotected bike lines and move it toward the center a little bit and keep the parking in front of, you know, Kitab Cafe and the mosque and all those?
Well, we want to leave the parking alone on the north side of Holbrook. It's going to be on the south side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
so
right,
that
good.
we almost won't even affect parking at all,
Okay,
because no one
that's
parks
good.
there now.
All right.
And we also get to thin Holbrook, which slows traffic down naturally, which
Okay.
we're trying to slow traffic.
All right, Councilman Rafai?
Mr. Chair, you know, if I could rewind this and not have bike lanes on Joseph Campo, I will do that. I've been living in the city most of my life. Barely anybody drives a bike, okay? Sadly, that before we were council members that were here approved it. and that caused a lot of issues to those businesses beside the meters. I've spoken to you multiple times that from Holbrook to Hamtramck Drive, we have to solve issue with parking. We talked about the Angel parking, so I'm happy that there's a plan for it. I think before we start moving to any plan on Holbrook, let's work on this. Try to fix these parking on the south end in front of Veterans Park. Instead of having one crosswalk, we should have two, because there is one in front of Danforth that there's no lanes right now, where kids kind of use it almost most of the time. I do ride my bike. You know, I ride everywhere. But the way they design these bike lanes on Joseph Campo and the space that they took, it's ridiculous. Right now, if a car drives, if there's a car parked on front of Shiba's restaurant, and then you have a car that passes by, they cannot open the door because they're gonna get hit. That's how narrow it is. They're so close to each other, you know? People almost got hit, people had their mirrors broken because it's not enough space. It is what it is, it's already there. We wasted so much grants on that. But if I could rewind or maybe get grants so that delete the whole thing and maybe start from Hamtramck Drive to Denton Street, Denton to Lumpkin, where there's not a lot of businesses there, and there's not a lot of houses, and then go through Holbrook if we like. But like you said, you know, it's been done, it's already been paid. It's a grant, it's not from, you know, it's not in our hands. It's a huge grant and a project that most, you know, there's 4 or 5 cities that are doing this. But I will ask my colleagues to pause anything that has to do with bikes right now. Let's try to fix these parking angles at Veterans Park. At least we can make those businesses and visitors who do come visit Hamtramck and Veterans Park, they have spaces to park. Because as of now, there's no spaces.
Councilman, it's my hope that we can get that going as soon as possible. I hope tomorrow that we can already start the ball rolling and get this done. Maybe it's a little too aggressive, but I was hoping for spring to have those angled parking and the crosswalks going.
If we're able to do that, we gotta come back again, we'll think about Holbrook.
Yeah, I think with Holbrook, like we said, if it's on the side where there are no businesses, that's okay, because there are we are hoping that some investments and developments are coming, and this is one of the conditions. They want that bike lane, you know, established as soon as possible for them to start developing the area. So I would support it. It's not gonna hurt anyone on the other side. So that's my opinion. I mean,
I'm with you. If we can focus on the south end.
yeah, that's where the problem
Start with that big
is.
issue that we have. At least you have those, you know, residents and also businesses kind of, you know, calm down for a while, and then, you
I
know.
truly believe that with the angled parking and the crosswalks, the businesses are gonna be a lot happier. Not maybe 100%, but I think they're gonna be a lot happier.
The mayor.
Yes, Councilman. Go ahead.
Yeah, we need to just add all Almer and Rafai he speak. We just close something. Did Hamtramck like other city? Example, Heilenberg, Woodward Avenue. They have Hamtramck spot like Woodward Avenue.
Space. He
Space.
means,
The
is
space
there a
size.
space?
Yeah,
We
they
don't
got
have
space
bigger
like
than-
Oh, do
Woodward
we have the
Avenue.
space to
Yeah,
put it in?
yeah. There's a downtown Detroit, a downtown Hamtramck, same as downtown Heilenberg. They got no space in Hamtramck. And we said they bring more revenue. They kill a revenue in Hamtramck. They close all the business. I love the pie. I love that. We have to figure it out. I'm not gonna support that one, only if you fix this issue from Holbrook till Hamtramck Drive. Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
This is
how much money are you
because
looking?
I know this
sorry.
one, they kill Hamtramck. And when we pass that one, the community, they don't know. The community don't know. Like when we did tomorrow, everybody, they know. They're gonna start. This is bad issue.
Thank you.
No, so I was saying that how much money we'll lose to pulling those out from the Joseph Campo. Then when I
Thank
say-
you, that question I
He's
was
talking about
waiting for.
What's already installed for the pipelines, a few $100,000, I don't have the exact number, but.
And those are grants money, we're not losing anything anyways. And as Mr. Mayor said, if you do Chicago, New York, California, that would make sense. But in our city like this, small city, when we're suffering big
Time for
time,
Hamtramck.
and believe me, everywhere we walk, people complain. I don't see one person appreciate those bike lines, everybody complains.
Problem is, Councilman, though, if we pull it out, not only do we have to pay to pull it out, but then we have to refund the grant. So we will be out of it.
So, it's from the Michigan
Yeah.
Department of Transportation, so that's on our record, so anytime we apply for any Michigan Department of Transportation, where it's road, anything, they're gonna say, this grant was refunded because they didn't want it, so that puts us at risk for any funding in the future. For not only bike, for
It's really
everything.
problematic.
If I could just speak to the economic side of it. So I know we only put up a couple examples of other cities and the benefits. I personally was neutral on this project when I started. It was just part of, what I got assigned to do. But after researching the impact on small, medium, and big cities, there's a lot of data that shows that it increases economic activity. If you think about our vacant, so we only put up a few cities there because we didn't want to put up, 50 slides of different cities, but that's why we created this handout. It has small towns, big towns, coastal. So look into it, you might think it doesn't help the economics of the city, but just from researching it, we now believe that it would. So that's one thing. I know we mentioned a few cities, but this document is here just to really answer that question of, we're not New York, we're not this city, we're not Tennessee, but there are small cities that have benefited as well. At the same time, we share characteristics with large cities because we are dense, we are walkable, so we're kind of like a small city, big city, but it seems to work in both contexts. As well, this loop is only 1/5 complete, so when people say no one's using it, that's because the loop itself only has 1/5 of the segments done. So it's not until the whole thing is constructed that people are gonna really be doing it. Most people will not bike unless they feel safe. And so, if you try to right on Hamtramck Drive right now, coming up from the Dequindre Cut, very few people would even attempt that because of the potholes, there's no lighting over there. So of course, no one's coming into Hamtramck right now. That's because this is a 5 to 10 year project and only 1/5 of the loop is complete. But if you imagine that Hamtramck Drive is done, there's lighting, there's plans, it looks like a park, you can see that people would then feed into the south side of the city. But yeah, no one's really using it right now because it doesn't go anywhere. Again, it's a 5 to 10 year regional plan, so it wouldn't really get used that much until it's complete.
Mr. Mayor, I kind of want to wrap up our side of this at this point, because I know we've kept you for quite some time, but if there's any just quick feedback we can get from yourself or council beyond this, but I'd like to really get started on the things to try to help that business and then bring the rest back to you as we go. Is there any other concerns directly that we could work on addressing as we go?
No, not only that, you know who drove on those bike lanes? The city bus. I was parked, he actually drove in there, even the market has a video of that city bus that kind of drove on there. So from Holbrook and I know he was trying to pass all the cars, but he drove from Holbrook all the way to Hamtramck Drive. But if it was somebody else, they might get a ticket. So,
I'm pretty sure he got a ticket if
Well,
you've seen him.
I'm saying that's the only person I seen him use it.
We can give it a try and see. Hopefully the alternative, this plan with the crosswalks and angel parking can help. And then we always can come back and,
Mr. Mayor.
terminate.
We're really trying to address your concerns.
No.
I mean, we're doing the best we can with what we have now.
One question, let's say if this does not pass, will that South End project falls? Or is that separate?
Lanes that are existing?
No, the Angel Park, at
The
the
Angel
front,
parking?
Veterans Park.
As long as council is okay with us trying to do that, I'm fairly confident that Wayne County is gonna allow us to do it.
Okay.
So I don't foresee them denying it,
right.
especially because we're trying to increase the walkability, we're doing it by park and all the factors here. I'd be stunned if they tell us no.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. So Hallbrook to Hamtramck driveway, if we pull all the system right now, so what damage is gonna have it? How much is the total?
I would have to get you an exact total, Councilman, but it's gonna be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we'll have to repay. In addition, we'll be stuck with, well, what do we do with a bike lane at our south end and it just stops? And then there'll be irreparable damage with the Michigan Department of Transportation as far as
Okay.
ever getting more grants.
Okay, so here is the one. The example we have the Tennessee, Chicago, New York, not even should be compared with the Hamtramck city. It no make no sense. Hamtramck, Chicago, New York City, the apartment building, there is the 20,000 people, they don't have any parking, they need the bike. So far I see, I've been driving, I don't see any council member, me and Sumari only, that area. I never see one bike. How Bill Meyer saw maybe two, I saw the zero bike riding that area. I do that every day, 3 times minimum. So this is the area, we're not improving the economy, we are destroying the economy. And very clear that one, and more dangerous safety-wise than ever. So anyway, Hamtramck speed is 25, it cannot fly the 55. So then again and again, this residence, zero bike. I never saw the councilman Khalil ride the bike my life. Okay? So,
that means
excuse
you
me, sir,
that means you
I'm
follow
just
me?
talking, it's just talking, example. Okay? So, this resident, 95% don't do go the 20 minutes downtown using the ride. So, using the bike. So, like example I did it. So let's say somebody, they have already 2-3 car in the family car. So the thing is here, we have to make something what is fit for the city and city residents. Not for Chicago, not for the Tennessee. So this city, demographically, population, they don't use any bike. Okay? Yeah, kids do it. Kids did it 100 years ago too. It's still doing that. Don't need the bike. So, I don't know from Carpenter to, I never see anybody, other side of the Carpenter, anybody going downtown, ride the bike with the lane and the downtown. So, here is the one, if we can move Hallbrook to send the people to the Detroit, send it to cross the highway, that way, completely, I want you to eliminate this whole section without, I'm not going to approve it. It's my board. I want to come to the modification to completely take off the Hallbrook to Hamtramck Drive and directing that section, Hallbrook to the Detroit, that route. So, so I want to see how much money will be damaging or given to somebody. If it is 200,000, of course I will approve the 200,000, just example throwing the number, to modify those things. Because that is the business is killing right there, no question. So I have to listen to the residents. I go every day, 3 times, 3 times. Saturday I'm all day long, Sunday I'm all day long, that area 3 times. So then I have to hear all those things from the residents.
Councilman, and that's why we want to take immediate remedial action to, get that parking there and get those crosswalks in there, because we do believe that will give relief to those businesses.
Only the business.
Mr. Mayor? Yes, Councilman Musa, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't want to repeat it again and again, all those things, whatever we just share with this. I'm telling from my personal experience. Business people, a lot of residents there, they hold me one day, almost 2-3 hours. I was standing down in front of PNC Bank. Maybe 4 or 5 bicycle I saw. It is a good weather at the time, not the winter time. So, in my opinion, those bike rides, all those are killing our sidewalk, killing our parking space, and harm the business also. I don't know how much damage you're gonna be if we remove those things back to the previous, how much damage you can do. Think about it, what we're gonna do. Maybe we're gonna approve it now, and if a large number of the damage come up, maybe we consider it, what we should do together. But most of the business people, I do not see one person say the business is increasing. Everybody has a complaint. And last things, we represent city of Hamtramck. I hope my whole council will agree with me. Not even 10% people are biking this area.
Councilman, the beautiful part about the angled parking, the crosswalks, is that even if council does eventually make a determination that we ain't doing this, we ain't having it, we're getting rid of it, the angled parking and the crosswalks will stay. I mean, that will benefit us regardless.
Okay, so I understand your concern, and I understand the justification that you mentioned, that bike line hasn't finished, is not done yet, so that's why we don't see many bikes. But and I'm also concerned about the consequences of reversing this project from the, Ministry of Transportation or Department of Transportation, that they may reject future grants for us. But again, for Holbrook, to be clear, the American Axle requested that so they can do some developments for Holbrook side. And I think, like we mentioned, it already leaked. It's not a secret that they want to invest over $460-something million. So that's a big thing for Hamtramck. And one of their requirements is just a bike line there. They want to improve the street and beautify it. I know they take good maintenance on their side, on their buildings, and so we want to get that done for Holbrook side. I don't know about the consequences of reversing the whole project. If it was the first time, I would vote no for it. At this point, it's kind of difficult to just reverse the whole thing. So if you want to try those alternative plans and see if it's going to relieve some pressure on the businesses there, and then we can always come back and just, if no improvement, nothing happened, and they still suffer, we can come back and just take a hard decision and just cancel the whole project later on. I mean, that's my opinion. Like I said, if it was the first time before we start working, I would just say no, and that's it, we're done. But this is gonna have consequences on our city, so it's up to you guys, but that's my opinion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So if you saying we start with that and later on we take it off, by that time we expend the money, they're gonna say, okay, why you canceling or destroying the program right now? I want you to pay all those money back, or I'm not gonna give nothing. So that case, if I still wanna, if there is nothing so late, still grant money could be existing there and remapping the area. The original idea was to go to Detroit. So that is the way we can send the Detroit using the Holbrook, still make the American Axle happy, and still people going to Detroit. And first stop then is the Hamtramck Drive.
So, like I said, Councilman, the angled parking and the crosswalks would stay indefinitely. I mean, that even if council decided to do away with the bike lanes, I mean, the angled parking and crosswalks would stay. I mean, that's not something that's only gonna benefit the businesses over there. So I don't think it's getting ourselves in any deeper with that. I think it's a good attempt to see how it works and see if it helps. It might alleviate them. And everything else moving forward beyond that, we're taking to extreme consideration the parking. So, I mean, the whole Holbrook thing, will not affect parking except for nominally, in my opinion. And the same with all the way to getting to Kniff, it's all in the alley. People aren't parking in the alleys, so, I mean, it's not gonna affect that. If anything, I think going from, Holbrook to Kniff might actually be a boost. But we can address that later, let's do the immediate remedial action with the angled parking and try and get some relief to the businesses over there and see if it helps.
Or
we have
another
discussion.
alternative, decision that we can do is to let the Department of Transportation, whoever is taking care of this, or Wayne County, know about the possibility of changing the route of this, and see if they approve it without having any consequences. If they say, okay, that's fine to twist it from Holbrook to Chrysler Drive and then go back to, Hamtramck Drive or somewhere, then we move with that. At least we let them know that we did not take a hard decision. We consulted them, and we think it's in the benefit of the businessmen in this district because it limited the space, and we already have a problem with parking in that area. So I think that's possible if we can postpone taking a decision until we consult them and see.
So there's already significant progress in the way of Hamtramck Drive as well. Their intentions are to rip that out and redo it
Okay.
pretty
Finish up the
significantly
discussion.
already, which is coming up to us. But, I mean,
Mr.
we can take it in steps. Like I said, I'm really just looking for the ability right now, at least the acquiescence to try and help those businesses. That's all I really, really want right this moment.
Mr. Chair, go ahead. I want to suspend
I will
the
request to table this until, further notice, until we get numbers of what's gonna cost. Also, to contact, DPA, was it, Department of Transportation? And then until you give us those numbers, and then council, mayor will decide what we're gonna do.
Like figure out if there are any consequences
Yes.
or so.
So I would like to table this.
Not really, you're not voting on anything, so.
Oh,
All is discussion.
Discussion.
And then
So
we-
discussion is showing still, you heard from all most of the council members, so you really know what's going on. Is most of them going to the no, like Councilman Rafai said, so maybe bring something reasonable for us, modification done, do more research, bring to us, then we can approve it. That's all, nothing personal.
Mr. Chair, I'm very much agree with Councilor Rafai. Let's table it and we'll make the decision.
We don't have to table anyway, this is just discussion.
I mean, it's, no decision is taken, so,
That's good.
I mean.
Okay, so go to the next one then.
So, yeah, well, I mean, the end results or the outcome of this discussion is just to
It's done.
discover, explore, what are the consequences, and if it's possible to change the route from Holbrook toward Chrysler Drive or somewhere else. And then we come back and decide on this. I mean, if we can do it with no consequences, then I think it's better for our residents, and we already have 2/3 of Hamtramck involved to that area, if that's possible. So that, I think that's what everybody's trying to say.
Okay, so next is the.
All right, so we get to the end of the new businesses, and we have the reports. I will have a short report today. I just want to take this opportunity and thank everyone who attended today's meeting. I want to congratulate the newly elected and the re-elected council members. I want to thank everybody who attended the inauguration ceremony. Greg, thank you for all the hard work you did to prepare and organize the meeting. I also want to thank every council member here for solving the problem of the mayor pro tem tonight, kindly with no, not taking any personal animosity. I mean, I was trying to be fair to everyone and just keep myself away. You guys took responsibility and solved it. And I hope that it will not affect our work in the future. Like I said, we have been good for the past 2 years. We spent more time working together, getting things done, than being in constant conflict with each other like it used to be in the past. So I thank you all for, being responsible, and I wish we can work as a team from now on. I mean, like we have been doing in the past as well. And that's it. I don't have anything else to add. And Mayor Pro Tem today is Abu Musa. Congratulations. And it's your first report for this new position that you're holding.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council, and people who came here, and the people who watching us in this council chamber and outside of the council chamber. I'm really, really appreciated to people who support me to be in this position, and it is not a personal things, and I respect the democracy. Who don't vote for me, still I respect you. We are council, we are friend, and I treat you with the friend and respect. You are my colleague, and we like to go forward together with our great leaders. Our leader, Mayor Amit Ghalib, has leadership, and I attend few meetings, few events we have like almost 4 weeks gaps. Thank you the people who celebrate Christmas, Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, the people of Hamtramck. And in Bangladeshi people, they're celebrating 52 victory anniversary in the 16th December last month. I was inviting and I was arranging some of the event. Mayor was invited. He cannot make this the first time. Always he with those event. And thank you, newly elected all those council members, especially new council member Muhtasin Sadman. Congratulations to be here, and congratulations your new married life, conjugal life. I hope you will be happy in your conjugal life. And the people of Hamtramck, again, I'm telling you, this is the position. We work together and work on behalf of our Honorable Mayor Amit Ghalib's leadership. Thank you, special thank you for Muhtasin Sadman, who proposed me a mayor pro tem. My special thanks goes to my colleague, all those colleagues, especially Sumari. I told the people, Sumari is the man for commitment, and he did the commitment. And I thank you for my good friend, Khalil Rafai. You are equal for each and every one. You prove it. And thanks, Mayor. You do not want to take the part. God save you.
Thank you.
So you don't need to take the part. But thank you, my school friend, good friend, my beloved friend, Mohit Mahmood. I take it as a politics. I take it as a democratic process. And thank you, my long-time colleague. I work with you 10 years in this council, Councilman Kamrul Hassan. Maybe one day we go way further, work together to make this city, make this place better. Thank you very much to give me the opportunity. And Mr. Mayor,
thank you.
We will work together to make the city with this council. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. You realize that dinner is on you tonight, right?
That's good.
To celebrate your wedding.
Thank you.
Yes,
With
good.
everybody.
Everybody's invited.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. And now we move to the City Council report.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councilman Rafai.
I want to thank everybody that showed up here tonight. I want to thank our team for this presentation. It's not personal. It's just we get a lot of hate, complaints and, from those side of town regarding these bike lanes since I became council, even previously, but now council's like emails and calls. I want to wish our chief a great retirement. You and your husband go around the world as much as you can. I wish you all the best. Thank you for your service for I think, how many years now? 25 years. I wish you all the best. I want to congrats my colleague Sadman on his new seat here in City Council, and also he got married about a couple weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
So congrats. So, and then I want to wish all the best to my other colleagues who won in the election, Mohammed Hassan, and also Mohammed Al-Sumeri. Have a good night, and God bless you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Chair.
Yes.
I have to thank everyone who joined us tonight. Thank you, Council. And thank you all the people of Hamtramck who chose me to serve you. I want to make Hamtramck a better place for all of us. Please keep me in your prayers. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. All right, I guess with that we come to the end of the meeting and the end of the reports. And do we have any report for the controller?
They're posted on the board.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
we don't need to.
all right, so we move back to the public comment if there are any.
Sorry, no, report for
If there are
convenience
any
manager.
public commenters,
Bill.
Bill Meyer.
10 seconds.
Oh, that's it.
All right, so, what a shock. I'm sorry to hear that Ann, she's leaving. You've done a great job and you've really changed the department in a good way. And you're so humble about it. I mean, she should have told us ahead of time we had a big party for you. Thank you for that. And, some of the signs are still left up in the city from the campaigning in November, by the way. And, by Kniff and the freeway. So, I think you came up with a great solution. I mean, that's what I would have done. I appreciate the talk and everybody's work, and we've got some young people really ambitious, wanting to help the city. That's a great program they put together, great presentation. I disagree with a lot of what they said, but I know they have a job and they have to try to sell it. It reminds me of salesmen that try to sell something. I just don't know why they feel they have to sell something when most of the people in the city do not want to. You should really go to people first. You should have, not you, but I mean, the last guys who voted for this should have gone to the people in the city. And I think you'd ask the people there, 80% did not want those bike lanes. So we made a big mistake at the beginning. Now they're trying to do their job. However, when we present stuff like that, you don't talk about the negatives about it. You talk about all the cities that have benefited, how it worked, and all. You don't talk about the hundreds of cities that went down, that failed because of this. You don't hear the negative parts at all. He said it'll provide economic improvement. Well, we need specifics. How is it gonna be? Just can't say that. You gotta give a list of how it's gonna improve the economy in the city. So what do we lose? We lost parking spaces with this program. We also lost these people that are working hard and we're paying them hour, to do this job. So we're losing salary and they're spending their time on something that the city doesn't want. And we should put them on work that will help the city, that the people want.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
One more minute.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I love bicycles. I ride bicycles. I have nothing against bikes. They're very healthy. And everything he said about bikes is true. I mean, they're very, very healthy, very important. This city isn't a bike city. That's all. Let's face it. Once it becomes one, then run the bikes through there, but it's not ready for that yet. What I'd like to see is a bike trail going around the city, to be honest, so that we can ride our bikes all through the different regions of the city. That's what we need, is to connect the people in the city first. And there's no bike trails. Oh, you can't 30 seconds. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, we come to the end of public comments and we move to adjournment.
A motion?
Second.
All right, it's 9:35. Thank you.
Home address.
I'm sorry.